So again, as we look at this first thing, you see that the data flows in both directions. It flows down from the application. So this, at the top here, that's your application that you're writing. At the bottom, that's the database. So that's all flowing down, and then when you get the data, it flows back up again. All right? So again, I don't expect you to remember any of this stuff, but I just did want to show it to you. All right? So, all right. Anybody ever heard of the term DBMS, Database Management System? That allows you to actually, the database management system is what's in charge of the database. It allows you to insert things into a database, update things from a database, delete things from a database. Guess what? You know how to do all those. You've done those in the worksheets that we've done. All right? You know that databases contain tables. You know that tables contain rows, which are known as records. You know that records contain columns, which are known as fields. Nothing new right there. What you're going to notice today is, remember, when we were working with the MySQL stuff, how we used varchar and char, etc., we don't have those in C#. So a char becomes a string. All right? Most of the other stuff we'll be able to use. But you know what? We've got a Boolean, right? We've got a Boolean in C#, true, false. You don't have a true, false variable in like MySQL. We had to use a bit field, which was 0 for false and 1 for true. All right? All right. And the way that we're going to do this, where we set up auto-incrementing, is going to be a little bit different as well. So let's go in and start to work on the first one. So again, if you would please. Again, this is my copy, just so you see this. Other than that phone list, and that's the same thing you have, there's nothing in here. All right, so I'm starting just where you are. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start up Visual Studio. All the projects that we do, at least for today, they'll all be Windows Forms applications, you know, no console stuff. So we're going to come in here and we're going to do a File, New, Project, a Windows Forms application. All right. The first one that we're going to create is just going to be a list of people's names and phone numbers. That's it. So I'm going to call mine Phone List. And I want to make sure that I'm saving it into my Project 1 folder. That's the path to my Project 1 folder. Yours is going to be different. All right? But wherever you just unzip this, and hopefully you did unzip it, and if you didn't, hopefully you'll unzip it right now. Because you've got, you know, when you get done, we're doing all these projects as a class. If you turn me in everything when you get done, it's, for lack of better words, it's like a free 50 points. All right? So, phone list, and make sure you're saving it, like I said, to the Project 1 folder. Now, if you look up on the screen, this is such a small project, I don't really care about a Git repository. All right? If you want to put one in, you can. There really is no reason to do it. Like I said, we're going to finish this project before 8:30. That'd be my guess. And if it's a little longer than that, it's because some of you are slow typists. That'll be the only reason. All right. So we came, again, what have we done? Came in here, said we wanted Windows Forms, called it Phone List, told it where we wanted it to live, and I took off the Git, clicking OK. And it's going to go and create the form for me. I want the form to be a little bigger than that, so I'm going to make it about like that. That should be big enough. All right. You'll know when you create yours, you know, when you'll have to, if you have to make it any bigger. All right. Now, please look up on the screen again, one more time if you would. You may have some problems with this. We're going to see. This one will work fine. When we do the next project, you may have some problems with it. All right? That's not a warning. I just want you to know that. So now I've got my phone list. There's my folder. All right? The thing that I just had you copy, this, okay? As we go on in here, for the next few projects, not this one, but the next few projects, we're going to be using that file. So you won't have to type in 12 records. But for this one, for this particular example that we're working on, we're going to create the database ourselves. If any of you try to go through these steps and it comes up and it says it's giving you an error or whatever, you're going to have to let me know. Does that make sense? All right. All right. Not that there's a big thing, but this is going to be a phone list. So let's go up and let's change the name from form to form phone list. Not home list. And we'll go and we'll change the text that's up here that says form 1 right now. We'll go down to the text property and also call that phone list. All right. Did we have to do that? No. Did it make the program run any better? No. All right. But now we've got phone list here, and the name of our form is form phone list. All right. Shouldn't have been a big stretch for anybody. What I want you to do next, if you look up on the screen here, remember this is the solution right there, and that's the project, right? Okay. Then what I want us to do next is we can either click here. If you look up on the screen, you can click here, right mouse click there, and choose Add, and choose New Item. So we can do that. If for some reason you don't like doing it like that, you should be able to click Project here and do it like this also. I'm used to, rather than clicking it from here, I'm just used to doing it the other way. I just want you to realize there's two ways of doing it. Does that make sense? All right. So you should be up to here. I want you to take your mouse and click where it says data, so it looks like this. Everybody there? Anybody have any problems doing that? All right. We want to choose service-based database. All right. Just so you know, it gives us a default name of database1.mdf. We're going to change that name in just a minute. The MDF, Microsoft Database Format. All right. What we're working with right now, just so you know, this is not MySQL. We're starting to work with SQL Server, which is the relational, MySQL that we've been using, that's a relational database management system. I asked you before, do you know what an RDBMS is? MySQL is an example. So is SQL Server. All right. All right. This is going to be phone books. For lack of better words, it'll be a phone book. So I'm going to change the name from database1.mdf to phonebook.mdf. So please call that phone book if you would. And what I want you to see before I'm going to click enter, but watch what happens up here. Watch what happens in here. So after you put in phone book, and the casing isn't that important, since it's really two words, I'm making each one uppercase, the P in phone and the B in book. Don't put a blank space in it. It probably will still work, but it might not. All right. So I've got phone book, and I'm going to click add. And what we should see there in just a minute. Yeah, make me a layer. That's good. They should add. There it is. Did you get that? So you know what that is. Notice there's another file under it that has the same name, but it has _log.mdf. Do you see that? That is a log file. That is designed, that file, you should never open it and jack with it. That's a file that's used by SQL Server itself. It's an administrative file that attempts to keep track of all the inserts, updates, and deletes you put into the database. All right, so it literally is what's called a log file. All right. We're going to look at something that you have not seen before right now. If you don't have your toolbox up right here, if you don't have your toolbox up, do a view toolbox. All right, and you probably want to click the pin button right there to make sure that it looks pretty much like mine does. If you want to make it wider, you can. It really and truly isn't going to matter. So if you want to widen that out, that's fine too. All right. But we're going to bring up something in here that we've never done before. All right. So I want you to click View, and I want you under View, I want you to go to the third one down, which says Server Explorer. And ideally, at least, it's going to look like this. All right. Is that one of you? I can hear. Can you hear that? Oh. Is he talking or is that a tape? Oh, okay. I was going to say, I normally don't hear stuff like that. My hearing isn't that great anyway, but it's just a little weird. All right. I'm looking at this. Let's see. There it is. Okay. If you click under Data Connections, right there, you see that? Then you should see your phone book. Everybody see this? Now, this is actually, it's kind of a good thing, but we're going to find out right now. Single click here where it says phone book, right there. And click this button right here, which is a refresh button. And then that X should go away. When we go through the next example, we're going to be using a pre-done database for us. We may get an error when we attempt to refresh it like that. If that happens, I'm going to walk you through how you make the error go away. But it's about a 5 or 6 step process. Not difficult, all right? But just so you know that. All right, then what I want you to do, we now have an empty database. If you click, if yours looks like this, if you click this arrow right here, it looks like this. I want you to be right there. And again, when I'm going through this, I'm taking for granted that you're all able to keep up with me, that nobody has, well, mine doesn't work, but I don't want to say anything. Oh, I want you to say something if it doesn't work. All right, so we're all here, right? We're going to right mouse click on the folder that says Tables, and we're going to choose Add New Table. And when you do that, if your screen looks like this, get rid of this. If your screen looks pretty much like this, that's where you should be. All right? This, for lack of better words, this is one of the weirder screens that you're going to see. And what I mean is, literally, you can work in either the top or you can work in the bottom. Most people work in the top because it's a little bit more GUI. All right? But again, there's nothing that says you have to do that. So let's take a look at what's in here. This area that's up here, this area that's right there, that's called the designer window. All right? It shows right now what's in our table. Right now, there's a field called ID, and there's nothing else in there. Yours should look the same. Can you tell it's a primary key because it's got the little key insignia there? Every time we change something here, it's going to change down here. All right? We're going to come down here and make one change later, but notice it's telling us now we've got a field called ID. It's an int. It cannot accept nulls, and it's a primary key. So it's letting us know that information. All right? So we want to keep that particular one. We want to keep that, but we're going to want to make some changes to it. Not major changes, but we're going to want to make some changes. First thing is, instead of calling it ID, we're going to want to click in here. We want to call it Person ID. So the word person with a big P, keep the big I, and the little d. You don't have to change it. ID would be fine. It would work just fine. All right? But we're going to leave it like that anyway. All right? Now, please look up on the screen because otherwise this won't make any sense. You're going to want to widen this out right here. We're going to be working in this area in just a minute, in this area down here. All right? take your mouse and click on data type. And notice right now it says int. If we wanted to change it, we don't. But if we wanted to change it, that's how we could do it. See that? We could click the down arrow. We don't want to change it though. We want this to be an integer. We don't want it to have nulls. We don't want it to have a default value. That would make no sense anyway for a primary key. What we do want to do, though, is we want to come down. If you look on your screen, we want to come down here. See where it says identity specification? Can everybody see that? Click the plus sign to the left of the word identity. All right. See all this? And we want to change this from false to true. So just double click on it and change it from false to true, or click the down arrow. We want the identity increment to be 1 and the seed to be 1. In English, what that means is these are going to be automatically numbered for us starting at 1, and every time we add a new one, it'll add 1 to it. We're going to add 9 people. So there will be person ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That makes sense? That's what we told it right now. All right? Questions on that? Anything on that that doesn't make any sense? All right. Then we're going to come down to the next column down here. So click right underneath where it says person ID, right there. If it looks like this, that's good. All right. And we're going to put in their name, because each person has a name. We could put in first name and last name, but since this is such a simplistic example, we're just going to put in name. Does that make sense? All right. We don't want the data type, we want it to be an nvarchar of size 50. All right. So if you notice in here, we can go look. Well, we can either type it ourselves or we can choose the one that's down here. Either way. And we don't want it to be null. Finally, we're gonna repeat that, but we're gonna put here phone. Even though we wouldn't need anything that big, we'll also make it an nvarchar 50, and we won't allow nulls. So this is what yours should look like. And do you notice if you look up on the screen, as we filled this in here, this has been filled in too? Everybody see that? Some people prefer working this way because it's a lot like when we were working in MySQL and we were at the command line. So some people like doing it like that. It really and truly does not matter which way you do it. All right, so which way should you use? I use the top way. But if the bottom way, for whatever reason, makes more sense to you, then you should do it that way. All right? Now, we're done designing the table, but there's still a problem. Can you look on the screen and see something you think might be a problem here? Anybody? Give you a hint. It's on the bottom part. What's the name of our table right now? You want to guess? The name of the table is table, which is a stupid name. All right? So the easiest way to change that is to literally go down here, highlight all of that. Since it's a table for a person, we'll call it person. All right? That's the easiest way to do it. Did you hear that? That's the easiest way to do it. Are there other ways? Yes. I don't want to show them to you. They can be problematic. This way works really well. All right? Now look up on the screen, everybody, please. What we want to do next is we made these changes, but they don't take place until we update. Notice you got a button up here that says update. You should have the same thing near the upper left-hand corner. All right, put your mouse over there and click it. And it's showing you basically what it's going to do now. So it's coming in there and it says, well, we just did a create command. We created a person table. All right? We're not done though, because what we want to do next, we're not doing this, we could click generate script. And that would actually show us the code that was generated. We've already written it. So we're just going to click update database. And then what you'll see, if you look on my screen, you may or may not see it on yours, depending on how yours is set up. See what it's doing? It's letting you know that it's creating a bunch of stuff for you. Does it make sense to everyone? What we just did was we created the schema for our first table. Does that make sense? And the first couple of examples that we do in here are only going to have one table. All right? So we're done with our design right now. We're done with this. What can happen, please listen to this, what can happen when you do this is, right now I'm going to click this right here and close it. But sometimes when you do that, you're going to get a message that says it hasn't been saved. All right? If that's the case, and it says, do you want to save it, just click cancel, you probably have not done an update yet. All right? It happens. But I'm going to click this, and it should close. And it did. All right? So now, if you look up on the screen here, notice it under tables. There's my table. If for some reason you click this right here, and it doesn't show your table, it happens once in a while. So if your table doesn't show, you again click that refresh button. Then it should show. All right? If you say, I did it, I clicked refresh, it still doesn't show, you'd have to raise your hand. Not sure what would have happened, and I've never seen that happen. Is it possible it could happen? No, of course it's possible. All right? All right. The next thing that we want to do is we want to put in our data. So take your mouse, please, right mouse click on the person table and choose Show Table Data. Sounds weird because there's nothing in there. I get that. There is nothing in there. All right, we're going to put stuff in there right now. One thing to realize, please look up on the screen. Don't put anything for the idea. Don't put in anything. All right? Feel free we'll put 10 records in here. The first one will be, you can put your own stuff in there. All right? And you don't need an area code. You can if you want to, but I'm going to come in here, for example, and just put in this. Jeff, not F, Jeff Scott. Notice what I get here. Look on the screen. See the red exclamation point? That means that information has not yet been written to the database. All right? So I'm going to put in 286-3675. You can put yourself in there, a mythical person, whatever you want. And again, please look up on the screen. Notice what happens when I click for the next record. See how it put the 1 in there for me? If you want to make these columns bigger, you can, if that makes it easier for you to see. But what I'd like you to do is to come in now and put in these people. All right? When you're done, I'll put them in. You've got it on your hard copy, or you can look up here, whatever's easiest for you to do. I'll give you a couple minutes. Looks like you're all looking at your own copies, so I'll put in my information too. And if you screw up and you didn't type the number in correctly, it's not that big a thing. It really isn't. Make sure after you put the last record in, go down to the next row, and yours should look like this, except your first record will be different. Everybody got that done? All right, so just to review, what have we done so far? Well, we created our own SQL Server database, all right, that we called Phonebook. We designed and created our table. So we said that it was going to have an integer primary key called person ID, and it was auto-incremented, all right. Then we were going to have a name that was an nvarchar, which means variable length, of size up to size 50, couldn't hold nulls, and then we did the same thing for our phone number. Finally, we went in and entered our own sample data into there. Questions so far? Anything? All right. Now, just so you see this, if you look up on the screen here, okay, here's mine. Yours is going to look virtually the same. If I go to Project 1 and I go to Phone List, all right, and I go underneath Phone List, notice what's there. There's our file, phonebook.mdf. You cannot bring that file up. You cannot bring that file up in like Notepad because it's a binary file. In other words, look, notice what happens when I try. So there's my MDF file. I want to look at it in Notepad. Well, the system tries, and it says, I can't open it because I don't know how. I don't know exactly what it means. So it does not allow you to do so. All right? Again, not that that's a big thing, but I just want you to understand that. And it's not something you should be jacking with. All right? All right. Now, if you remember what we looked at before, if you look up on the screen here, where is that? So we don't need this phone list anymore. We do need this. Okay? Our data source that we've done so far, we've created our data source. Do you agree with that? That was phonebook.mdf. So we have our data source. But, all right, we've got that, but we have no way for this to talk. The system doesn't know, basically, how this stuff should communicate. So we're going to do that right now. All right? So we're back over to here. Okay? What we should do, just to make sure everything is saved, is click File and do a Save All. Or click the double disk icon. Either one. But I'm going to do a File, Save All, and then I can close this. Because believe it or not, we're pretty much done with the database for this. We just have to bring it into our program. That's the big thing. All right? So how do we do that? Well, if you look up on the screen here, what we want to do is we want to click Project on our menu, and we want to go down and we want to find the fourth one down that says Add New Data Source. All right, Add New Data Source, right there. And the system says, okay, what is your data source? Now we're going to let it know, now we're letting the program know that the database is phonebook.mdf. Because right now there's no communication taking place between that actual database and our program. That's what we're going to bring in right now. After we get done with that, we're literally just going to drag something on the screen and boom, we're done. All right? Like I said, this first one, not a whole hell of a lot of thought in this one. Yes? I went Project, and then the fifth one down, Add New Data Source. Are we all here? All right. For everything that we're going to do in here, everything, we're going to use the default, which is database. The other stuff, service, I'm not even going to get into that. All right. Other than to say, I know I'm dating myself here, and maybe you've ever even heard the term. I don't know if these were available when you were kids or not. Do you ever remember the yellow pages? Remember that when you would see, it was a phone book, but it was all businesses? That's kind of what a service is. There literally are places out on the internet that will provide services for you. So you can bring that into your program. Most of the time, they're not free. So we're not using those. All right? Object, if we were going to write all this in code, we're not going to. The code's going to be written for us. And SharePoint, I'm not even sure what that is. You can take your mouse and put it on each one of these and click, just single click, don't double click, and they'll show you an explanation of what each one is. All right? But what we want to do is use database, so we're going to click next down here. Then it says, okay, what type of database model do you want to use? I'm not trying to be funny here. It's kind of hard to screw this one up though, isn't it? We are using a data set. So we click next again. Notice they do give you an explanation. The database model you choose determines the type of data objects, etc. A data set file will be added to your project. That's what we want. So we click next. All right. Now, it's smart enough that it says, oh, I think what you want to check here is phonebook.mdf. I think that's what you want to link to. Now, please, before you do it, we are going to do this. I want to show you two other things. First, notice there are no other ones. But if you wanted to create your own, you could click New Connection. We don't want to do that now. We'll get into that later. The thing you may want to do, if you look up on the screen here, if you click that plus sign, this is what's being created for you. You're going to see this when we do the next project. But it's telling you, this is your data source. All right? And in other words, what it says, all right, what it says here is, I'm using my local machine as a server, and the file name is phonebook.mdf. And it says, put in your own security. All right? Whatever built-in security, I want to use it. All right? Now, I can just click the minus sign, and it'll go back again. I want to click next one more time, and now it comes back and it says, do you want to store a connection string? And I want to, I suppose I won't be able to show it to you in here, but I can show you later. What the system is saying is, rather than you having to always worry about how this database is being connected, if we choose that, it'll get put into a special file that I'll show you in just a couple minutes. Well, that means that's less than I have to do. I like that. All right. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click next. All right. And now it says, okay, with what you're working with in here, exactly what are you doing? All right. And what it says here is these are different things that you can work on with a database. Okay. So we can work on tables, views, stored procedures, and functions. We're not even going to go through most of this stuff. But what we want to do is click that arrow here by tables. And the reason I wanted to show you that is we could have just clicked here. If we would have clicked here, that would have been chosen. Did you hear me? But as you get and you work with more complex databases, we could have 7, 8, 10 tables here. If you click there, it chooses every table. But if we had 7, 8, 10 tables here, we only wanted 3 of them, then we would check them individually. That makes sense? We just check the ones we wanted. So what we want to do is just take our mouse and literally just click on person, and you notice they're both highlighted because there's only one. It's going to create a data set for us that's called Phonebook Data Set. If Tony didn't like that, he wanted it to be called Tony Data Set, he could change it right now. All right? It's fine. It's not going to hurt anything doing it that way. It'll work just fine. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so we're going to click Finish. And it's going to spin and think about it, and it says we're just about done. We're not done. We're just about done. And you look here and you go, okay, I don't see anything on my screen. I don't know exactly what happened. How are these two going to communicate with one another? Well, now I got to show you another window. All right, please look up on the screen again, because believe it or not, we're almost done. Okay, up here I want you to click Project again. right where we did it before. Click Project. But now I want you to go down and where is it? Or is it View? I'm sorry. Click View. My error. Click View, and you see down near the bottom here where it says Other Windows? See that? Do a View and choose Other Windows. All right. View and Other Windows. And we want to choose, I got to remember what it is now. Let me just click here and make sure that's the one. Yep. Data sources, the second one down. So View, Other Windows, Data sources. And if this is how yours looks, that's a good thing. Anybody behind? Anybody have any problems with this? Because we're almost finished, literally. Now we'll take a break. Now, if you click right here, if you click on Person, if you click this arrow that's right there, it shows you all the fields that are in there. That makes sense? Later, we're going to sit there and we're going to have all those fields put out there for us automatically, or maybe we don't want the ID, so we'll only put out a couple fields. You'll see all that in just a minute. All right? Now, the other thing I want you to do is this what everyone's screen looks like right now. Yes? Yes? Andrew, yes? That's what yours looks like? I want you to click this down arrow right there, that one. And I want you to choose Data Grid View, the top one. So choose Data Grid View. All right? And you'll say, nothing happened. Yes, it did. All right? Take your mouse, hold down on the left mouse button, click on the word Person, and drag it right into here and let go. Now, we don't need this data source anymore for this project, so I'm just going to close it. And I'm going to take this and position it over a little bit better. This is going to, in just a minute, we're going to run this. I'm probably going to have to make this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make mine about that big. It might have to be a little bit bigger, but it's no big thing. Let's take a look at what's at the bottom of the screen. See these? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody got those? All right, so let's take a look at those. The first thing that we have in there is the data set. All right, see where it says Phonebook data set? All right, what that is it gets a copy from the table. I'm sorry, it gets a copy of the table and it keeps it in memory. It allows us to work with a copy. Okay, so we don't screw anything up. So that's the first thing. Then we've got the binding source. That binding source, believe it or not, is this thing. That's our navigation bar. That's going to allow us to peruse or work our way through this. All right? Then next we've got the table adapter. That gets the data directly from the data source. So that grabs the data right from the database. Next we've got the adapter manager. If you're working on an application with multiple tables, the adapter manager will allow you to go from table to table. We'll do that. Not today, but we will do that. All right? And then finally, we've got the binding navigator. And for lack of better words, that's going to just bring everything together and allow that navigation bar to talk to our system. All right? Let's do this, everybody. Do a file, save all, and click your green arrow to run the program right by your start. And lo and behold, there it is. Now, you'll notice, wow, it could be a little bit wider, it could be a little bit longer. See that? All right. So I'm going to go back again to here, and I'm going to move this down a little bit, and I'm going to make this a little bigger. Drag that down a bit, and make that a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to click on here, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger. Bless you. I'm going to save all again and try running it again. Does it look better now? Well, there it is. We wrote absolutely no code. Would you agree with that? I didn't write any. But what I want you to realize, because we're going to take a break in a second, but before we do, all right, you might say, yeah, we didn't write any code. Yeah, but some code was written for us. I'm going to right mouse click and choose View Code, and the system wrote this stuff, which told us as we move from record to record, if you have to do any updating, do some updating. And this loaded the data into there. All right. Now I'm going to show you one more thing. Then we're breaking. All right. If I don't want, let's just say I don't want my record in there anymore, I can click right here. I can click the X, and it's gone. You do not get a message that says, are you sure you want to remove Jeff Scott? It's gone. All right. I don't need to be there, so it's gone. Okay. Notice now I can't use person ID 1 anymore. That's not available anymore. Does that make sense? Because I've removed that person. But I can come down if I want to. All right, and now notice it says -1. Don't worry about that. I can come down into here. You know, I can put in all right. And I can move up, and it looks like it's not been written there, but it should have been written there. All right. So I can add a new, I can do whatever it is I want to do. I can save what I'm working on. Notice as soon as I click save, that number was -1. It's now 11. This is a fully functional relational database management system in that I can display data. All right, that's the read. I can add new data. That's the create. I can change that. Oh, his number shouldn't have been 4848. It should have been 4846. Let's say, boom. I can do that. That's the update. I already got rid of me, and I showed you the delete. Does that all make sense? Now, it's not always going to be that simple. All right? But sometimes when you're working with this stuff, it is. It literally is that simple to do it, especially if you're just working with a single table. This data grid that we just put in here, I just want you to know this. This data grid that we just put in, this thing, it pretty much works like a spreadsheet. It's not a spreadsheet, but it works like one. And again, you've got the navigation bar, which always shows you how many records you have. You can use that to jump to a record. All right, so I can put in 5 there and hit enter. And you notice how I went there? And you say, you're not at 5. Yes, I am. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? I'm at 5. All right. Now, the reason I'm showing you that, and that reason that might be important, what if you have 10,000 records and you know you want to go to record 7,106? You can type that number in there. You can click this button and boom, you're there. You can peruse your way from record to record forwards or backwards. You can go to the end record. You can go to the beginning record. And I showed you what those are. Any questions on any of this stuff? Anything so far? All right, that's the first project. Let's take a break. Let's come back at 10 after, and we're going to create a second one. All right? You can just do a file, save all on this, and then do a file. If everything's working, then just do a file close solution, which will keep you here, right there.